And I wanted to start out with something contemporary, if you want to count the 19th century, the 20th century contemporary. This is a window from the, yeah, I'll have to take glasses off, right? This is a window of great interest in that it basically shows what I thought is this absolutely loving image of God cradling this lamb as if God is a child with a special lamb to hold. And it made me think that what we're talking about here is that word caritas, love. And in what I'm decided to say is we've got a theological way of looking at it, and then then get my glasses on, sorry, a theological, and then actually, as I say, a kind of personal view, and then maybe a universal view. So let's move to the next one. Oh no, I can, silly me. And I do this. Ah, right. And more contemporary, here in 1992, a wonderful, wonderful artist who's still with us, thank heaven, into her 90s, Sylvia Nicholas. And you can see that frequently the Good Samaritan is shown as an individual that we can relate to. We're looking at this face, we're looking at the man's gestures. Oh yeah, here it is in front of me too. And we are, this is an excellent stained glass. I'm so glad there are other people interested in the stained glass here as well. And as one walks, one is able to sort of extract what seems to be the essential gesture. And it is that moving, being involved, and caring for someone. Now, okay. It is a very important theme. And I thought I'd just bring up here the Old South Church in Copley Square in Boston. That on one side of the church, there are the five parables. The other side of the church are just 5 key episodes in the life of Christ. But you can see central is the Good Samaritan. You've got the sower, the prodigal son, the wise and foolish virgins, the laborers in the vineyard. But central, I love it, is the Good Samaritan. Now, back to the core issue here, Chart. So the window of the Good Samaritan dated quite early 13th, very early 13th century. You can see is a meditation, a meditation using geometry to talk about basically the economy of salvation. So it's theological. So we're looking at a time that is before the law, ante legem, under the law, sub lege in the center. So the top is the stranger being set upon by robbers. We'll have more details. I'll go to that. The second from the top, and it does start from the top to the bottom, is under the law. And you are looking at the priest and the Levite neglecting the Samaritan. And under grace, you are looking at the Samaritan bringing the wayfarer to the inn. Now, in detail. So we are surrounding this. We see God shows the forbidden fruit. Adam and Eve eat the fruit. Oh no, right? Then down below, they realize they're naked. Oh no. And over on the right-hand side, seriously, oh no. You're looking at the angel with the fiery sword that stands between humanity and paradise. And Adam and Eve are moving away. Next episode, of course, is that God speaks to Moses. So there are 3 great moments in history. God speaks to Moses, and you can see him up at the top with the brazen serpent. You see him, Moses is before Pharaoh. You see Moses in the golden calf, and then Moses before the burning bush. So hear all the words of Moses that we hear from the sacred, the Hebrew scriptures. But still, is this truly efficacious? So you're looking in the center, the poor man, who is identified as homo. This is the human. Sadly, almost a sort of pietà, actually, in a way. And the priest and the Levite, hey, it's not my business, right? The gestures of, oh, okay, that's not someone I should care for. And then we move to the under grace. It's not the law with Christ, it's grace. And the Good Samaritan is shown in his most, I think, significant, one might say, theological role, right? That it says, it's just not my gesture now. I'm sticking with it, right? Whatever you need to care for this man, innkeeper, I'm good for it. So it's that not just the gesture, but the sustaining gesture. And that keeps that before them. And all the way around is Christ before Pilate. And notice, the devil made me do it. So they give you, there's Pilate sitting down and a devil talking into his ear. So, they want to keep you involved with this. The flagellation, and of course the crucifixion, and then the resurrection. Not resurrection, the angels of the tomb. Now, most significant then is if you look down at what is the crucifixion, suddenly surprise. What are you missing? I expect to see, right? Mary on one side, Joseph on the other. No. What you see is ecclesia, the church, being born from Christ's side. She's crowned. She's looking up at him. She is catching his blood in the chalice, that sacramental blood. And on the right-hand side, not John, but the angel who had kept Adam and Eve out of paradise is now sheathing that fiery sword, and the sword becomes green. So this kind of thinking, of course, is part of a great cathedral and great meditation. Now, personal. You move to the present, excuse me. For me, the 15th century is the present. There you go. Okay. But in many ways, it is very much like the present, because it is the typical small village. It's the typical village in that people know each other, go to the church, neighbors, all of this. So this is, even though it's in the city of York, this was one of 50 parish churches. The cathedral, that was something else. But people's lives were centered in their home churches, which is a kind of like maybe 4 or 5 block of radius. And by the way, one of the reasons Henry VIII had to gain control over the individual churches is because that's where all the documentation, there was no civic documentation, it was in the churches. Marriages took place in churches, baptisms, churches, law, internments, everything. So this was a tight-knit community of ordinary people, no big theologians. And what are they emphasizing? The lay folks' catechism written in English. Well, hey, the French, the Latin, hey, it works, but English, you're out in outer space if you've got the clergy in Latin and you're trying to cope in English, okay? So early on, 14th century, there was a catechism written in English, so a book that every local priest could have, so he could instruct the people. And one of the major things he constructed were the corporal works of mercy. And which, of course, to feed the hungry, give drink who is thirsty, on and on and on and on. You can easily see. And down below here is the fifth is to visit those who lay in sickness. I've given you a quasi-translation. You can read it, but it's like oldie Englishy, kind of stuff. All right. Oops, I went the wrong way. Now, this whole window is on your left-hand side. This is not unusual. This is not it's a one of a kind in the way it's being presented here in that particular artistic installation, but it's not unusual at all. So you see them all lined across the top. And what I think is also significant, that the seventh, to bury those, they say, bury those who have minster, those who are in graces of the church, to bury them. They didn't have this here. They left that up to the clergy. And because it also didn't fit in the window, meaning you wanted, two rows of three. But each one, notice, shows the individual over here. Do I have a pointer? Yeah, the individual. Here it is. If you read Chaucer, this is the exact description of some of the people. They were wearing a beaver hat. He had nice clothes on. This was one of the. So this is about the time of Chaucer. So you can see that sense of storytelling. How do you get people involved in seeing something that's important? So this was absolutely a whole part of this. And what I found, lucky me, okay, is that it is very much connected to what the people were doing at the time, was staging the Corpus Christi plays. We keep forgetting how important Corpus Christi was, because we have a tendency to neglect the theological concept of that the body of Christ is truly there. But in the Middle Ages, Corpus Christi, of course, being a sort of early summer festival, was a great time to get everybody out. You had a whole week of ceremonies and parades and processions. And here you had a series of plays, not put on by professionals, but by the guilds. And this one I'm showing you is the Crucifixion. And this, to me, and fortunately, this was put on a couple of years ago. And then what you see over here is you see the sixth corporal work in someone is visiting the sick. Now, and you see at the very same time, that is going 4 minutes, okay. At the very same time, you are looking at smaller indications. Oh, by the way, all of these windows were paid by donors. It wasn't the church that did this. Individual people did it for their neighbors. It was an important part of their community. And what you see in print on the right-hand side, which is clearly the cheapest way of producing an image, right? And then you see on the left, a stained glass window taken from a print, which was, and very frequently prints were made after paintings in order that they could be transferred into stained glass. That's frequently. And you are looking at, again, corporal works of mercy with the welcoming of the stranger and Christ peeking up in the back and feeding the stranger with Christ quite clearly. And the German inscription said, "I was hungry and you gave me food." Ah, yes. Too bad we can't stay here and just look for half an hour at this object. This is a small, like this, image of welcoming the stranger that is taken from a von Heemskerk print. And here, I'll do a detail. Oops, no, I can't do a detail. Okay, never mind. It's absolutely gorgeous. We'll move on then to talk about this one last thought of the universal. And this is quite recent. This is 1877. And the window on the left is now in the Memphis Museum of Art. They're undergoing, renovations, and it will be displayed, I think, in about a year and a half. It was made for a chapel in Rhode Island. And what we are looking at is the same studio from London, but you can see that there is a significant difference. On one side, you have Christ the ruler, and I'll tell you what to do, right? Male dominated. On the other, you have narrative scenes, all dominated by women. It was given by women, big surprise. And what you are looking at here is a equality in gender, in social status, and in race. These images have brown skin. They were commissioned by Episcopalian women with, Anglo heritage. But they were very interested in what was happening, right? Pre-1877. In fact, this was commissioned at the time that Reconstruction stopped in 1877. In that the Congress in United States, shall we say, Washington says, well, maybe we don't have to really monitor how fair you are to the Black people you have. Like that. You all know that, right? Like that. Suddenly, who's on the voting rolls? Like that. This window is commissioned in that year. So there's no, and these Episcopalian ladies are not documenting, I did this because my family was involved with slave trades. They are not writing that down. That's not a nice thing for Episcopalian ladies to do. But you can look at it. Once again, right? Look, that's where evidence is. Not when somebody scrawls and says, I really mean this. How do you know? But if you see what happens, it's there. And we are looking at equality. These women and the Samaritan woman, once again, Jesus is here for everybody. So that eloquently, I just wanted to say, Ron, eloquent issue about who the Samaritan was. And they knew this right away. And of course, they are justifying this by looking at Gustave Doré's Grande Bible de Tours. And one more, I can tell you deliberately that you are looking at this is the color, this is the actual color. They've lost some paint. Her hair lost paint, but not the face. And finally, you can see that before it was going to go out of the disused church, we had, I brought some visitors down from a school in Massachusetts, and I love the kids saying, some of my favorite moments of this trip include getting to compare the windows to prints of the images and feeling like a detective, getting to spot the differences. Once again, just look, bring them in, let them feel the awe, and stand back and be grateful. Thank you.